everybody. It's me again. It's Deborah, and this is the Unexpectedly Soon episode 2 of Diary of a Physicist Farmgal. I had an opportunity where I had to stick around the house today, and so I thought I would take this opportunity to say hey. I am a professor of physics and astronomy at a local university. I am also the third generation farmer to run this farm on this land where my family's lived for over a century. I raise cattle and horses and rabbits and chickens, and I have some rescue mini horses and mini mules and donkeys. And I also like to do all the crafts. I knit, I crochet, I sew, I quilt, I make baskets, or I'm learning to make baskets, and do needlework. And so, so I want to share a little bit about my life and fun things here at the farm with you. So why am I home today? Well, normally on Thursdays, I volunteer at our local middle school, and I came home from doing that this morning. I volunteer with the GT program, and we had our meeting with Sasha, who's a good friend of mine, who is the interpreter at Lake Dardanelle State Park. And she's been teaching the kids a little bit about the 5 civilized tribes. She herself is a member of the Cherokee Nation, and she's been coming each month and talking a little bit about some of the traditions and handicrafts of the 5 civilized tribes. And then the kids have been making a Cherokee double wall basket. And so she was there today, and when I got home from that, I was going to do a few things around and then go run some errands in town and then go ride horses. And I came outside, and there was a lot of smoke. I mean, a lot. And I look across the pasture, and my neighbor's pasture, which is catty corner to mine, was on fire. And I freaked out, and I'll tell you why more in a little bit. And I called 911, and they said, yes, the Forestry Service was doing a burn-off of his pasture, which is fine. So I stopped panicking. However, my animals were freaking out pretty badly, and this partly is why. In 2012, we had a flash drought here in Arkansas, and my county, if you looked at the drought map, was sort of the center of the red bullseye. It stopped raining in April. It didn't rain again substantially until about the end of September, and we had a record number of days that were over 100. It was horrible. Hay was in short supply. The ground was dry, plants were dying, obviously. The grass was essentially gone by the end of May, beginning of June. And then fires started happening, a lot of them. And the day after my birthday, July the 3rd, a fire started. The mountain that I live on is kind of shaped like a W. There's a ridge, and then it bows into a cove. And then there's another ridge, a little ridge, and then a cove, and then I live on this back ridge. So it's shaped kind of like a W, and a fire had started over on this front ridge. And I had been driving to town. My parents were in the process of looking at going into assisted living. Sorry about that, I had a phone call. So there was a fire had started at about 1 o'clock. And I remember driving to town, and when I got to town, I posted on Facebook that some idiot had started a fire. And it was purposely set. They never figured out who did it, but it was clearly arson. By the time I drove back to town at 1:30, it had about quadrupled in size. And I got to the house. My parents were both still alive, but my dad especially was really in declining health at that point. He had been diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. My mom was still able to drive, so I came in, and I said, I was watching the smoke, and I said, okay, you guys get in the car, and I put my cat in a cat carrier. I just had one cat at the time, and I put our 3 little inside dog, well, one of them wasn't little, but our 2 little and our 1 very big inside dog in the car with them. And I said, just go. At that time, there was a little country store about 5 miles from my house. I said, just go down there and wait. And when I figure out what's going on, I will come find you. Just go down there and wait. Well, that was about 1:45. By 2 o'clock, I'm outside putting halters on horses. Now, at that point, I didn't have all the animals that I have now. I had cattle, and I had 14 at that time horses. my horse trailer was in the shop. It was being painted, so I didn't have a horse trailer at home. So I'm outside putting halters on my horses, and at about 2:15, the fire plane is flying over my head. And it's pretty clear we're in a bad way. So I, frankly, you know, this is one time when Facebook was used for good, I suppose, and not evil. A girl that I know through horse showing coordinated people to come to my house with horse trailers. People I had never met. People came from as far away as 80, 90 miles, got there as quickly as they could. I was standing there waiting, and the sheriff's department came and said, "You have to leave." And they're like, "You can't wait. You have to leave now." It's, you know, they don't have, what the problem was, the local, regional, little county water department, there was no water. So Willie wants to come say hello. So there was no water, and the fire was moving about 60 miles an hour. So I said, "Can I get my dogs?" And I put my other 7 dogs in the front of my truck, and I opened the gate to my cattle pasture so that they could get out, and I opened the gate to where my horses were so that they could get out, and I drove away with the sickest feeling in my stomach that I've ever had in my life, not knowing what I was going to come back to. I drove to town and got my horse trailer. Luckily, it was just in the little town that I live in. My good friend Carol drove up in front of me as I was coming through town, and I don't know what she said to the guy at the roadblock, but it must have been very persuasive because he let us back in to get my horses. They ended up staying together and going down the road about a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile to my neighbor's. And that was far enough to the west that the fire was going to miss them, but it was headed right for me. You know, and we got the horses, many of them we could, loaded. My neighbor told me to leave the rest of them there. He had plowed fire breaks, and he was running water sprinklers and everything. So we loaded up the horses we could get on the trailers that were there, and took them to safety. Luckily, I don't know what happened, but luckily the fire planes, you know, my good friends that have helped my family for a lot of years live down in the Cove, one of those coves of the W, and there's a lake, there's a Corps of Engineers lake down there, and there was a helicopter drawing water from the lake, and helping. The problem with where this fire was at is there's no really easy way to get there. A lot of it is timber company land, and so there's no direct route. In fact, I was in my yard, and all these fire trucks from these other fire departments came down my road, which is a dead end, but on some old maps it shows that there's still a road that goes off the end of the mountain, and it's not there anymore. So they came back by, and I waved them down and told them where to go, and then my friends met them down at their place and showed them where to turn up to get into the cove. And eventually they got it out, thank goodness. No one lost any buildings. It was a miracle. Nobody lost any buildings. No one was killed. No one lost any animals that I know of. But for about 7 hours, I wasn't sure I was going to have a home or a horse or anything to come back to. And that has haunted me, honestly, ever since. So the reason today the smoke was very upsetting is a lot of my older dogs were with me then, and it scared them. And I have a mini horse that's blind. I have a donkey that's partially blind. And then I have a mini horse that has horse asthma. It has the heaves. And was struggling to breathe a little bit. So I took care of them, got my dogs kind of calmed down. You know, they're just, you know, they rely on me for safety. So I've stuck close to the house today to take care of them. Everything was turned out fine with the fire, but that's just something that everyone around here still remembers. And honestly, I've been close to an F5 tornado. I've been pretty close to an F4 tornado. That's the scariest I've ever been. That was the sickest feeling I've ever had in my life, driving away from my house that day. The things I didn't care about. I mean, stuff, you can replace it, or, well, even if you can't, it's stuff. But to drive away with my horses looking at me, that killed me. And I don't ever want to deal with that again. So, anyway, so smoke makes us a little anxious around here at the farm. I guess that's a long story to tell you that. But anyway, so here I am. I was going to go ride horses, but You know, my horses or my dogs are all a little anxious, and my mini horses were a little worried, and even the cattle were acting a little bizarre when I was taking feed to them a while ago. They were just following me around, not really wanting to eat, not sure what to do. So they've mostly got the fire done. There is still quite a bit of smoke outside. I was thinking, oh, today'd be a great day to block, but no, not so much. But anyway, so yeah, so what I thought I would do is start with a little bit of what I've gotten accomplished in the last week, which is not as much as if I had planned on having done, but I do have a couple of things to show you, and we'll kind of go from there, okay? Okay, so I have gotten a couple of things finished, and the first one I'm very, very proud of. I finished my Jodi shawl. Now, I have not blocked this, and I don't know, you probably can't see the whole thing because the wingspan is pretty big, but I finished my Jodi shawl. So, it went really quickly. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I got to that lace section and kind of thought, ooh, because that's the longest rows, and also, you know, the patterning, but the pattern was pretty easy to memorize, and it knitted up really quickly. So yeah, I'm pretty tickled with this. I haven't blocked it yet. I haven't even woven my ends yet, but I'm pretty excited to have it done. I think it's going to be really nice to wear in the fall, in the winter. Okay, my Stephanie at the yarn shop, Knit Two Together, helped me pick out the colors, so I'm really appreciate her for doing that. The gold and then this periwinkle blue color that you can see here, you can kind of see it in the sunlight, are Cascade yarns, and then the middle color, I'll take it off where you can see it a little bit better. The middle color is it's a dark and stormy night by Kimarie Knacks. Yeah, so I'm really happy with how this has worked out. I've got to block it still, and I've got to weave in my ends, but this is the first nice shawl I've ever made for myself, that I've knitted for myself. I've crocheted a couple, but this is my first knitted one. So, anyway, so yeah, finished my Jodi shawl, and I finished it in time for the deadline on the knit along, even though it was pretty relaxed. This one, they weren't really worrying about FOs. I am going to go ahead and make the Tracie shawl too, but probably not next. My next one is I finished the little vest, the little Valentine's Day vest. Remember that I said I found in my mom's things? I finished it, sewed it up, got the little buttons on it. I couldn't find the ties, so I had some really cute grosgrain ribbon that I used. See if you can see that. It's just a fuchsia grosgrain ribbon that I had. And yeah, I finished that. Just a very simple little, it's a printed panel. You can get them usually for all the holidays. Different companies make them. I think this one was a VIP, or it might have been a Cranston. But anyway, yeah, so I finished that. And that will definitely go into the fair box. I don't know if I'll enter it as a Valentine's Day craft or if I'll enter it as a sewing craft. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm having a hard time cracking the sewing ribbons. I mean, I got a couple of firsts last year, but I got some seconds, and I wasn't real happy about that, so I've got to up my game this year. Okay, so another thing that I've finished is, and I've had these, and I make these fairly regularly. You know, I have a farm, so I get lots of feed sacks, and they're really pretty. They're plastic. They're usually, so they'll be water resistant. So what I do with them is I make shopping bags or tote bags or whatever you want to call them. So I've made a batch, and people like to use them as gift bags, but I line them. Okay, they're fully lined, and then I make the squared bottom so they'll kind of stand up on there. Okay, and then I was making handles out of the bags themselves, but that was honestly not working out like I wanted it to, so I've started buying this webbing this strapping or webbing or whatever you call it. And it's really inexpensive. I think it's like $1.49 a yard, even regular price, and it comes in a lot of different colors. Some of them you have to kind of melt the ends on or do a lot of zigzag on to keep it from fraying. But anyway, so they make great shopping bags, or they would make good bags to carry around like a blanket project or something in. I've used them for lots of different things, but they're very durable, and there's lots of pretty ones. This is a bird seed bag that one of my friends gave me, and then this is a horse feed, miniature horse feed bag there. Okay, and I like them because they've got pretty pictures on them. So, yeah. Okay, another thing that I have recently finished, it wasn't this past week, but I wanted to show it to you anyway, is a basket. I am learning to make baskets. My friend Sasha is the park interpreter, as I said, at Lake Dardanelle State Park, and she is an excellent basket weaver, and she teaches 3 or 4 basket classes a year, and I take them all. And I usually sit on the same side of the room as her mom, and we're sort of the rowdy side of the room. But anyway, she chooses different styles. Oh, I've got stuff in there. She chooses different styles to make, and this particular one is called a Williamsburg basket. And if you look at it, it's because the handle bows in at the bottom and comes out at the top, so you kind of get this elongated effect, and depending on how you shape it, you can almost get a cat's eye effect. And then at the bottom, if you'll see, I don't know if you can see in there, those V things are called chicken feet, okay? Because a lot of times when you weave the bottom of the basket, there's some openings, and the chicken feet help block the openings so that things don't fall out. So we learned to make chicken feet. Yeah, so her classes, you know, she teaches them in our local state park, but we've also met up and made some baskets. So we're actually going to get together, me and her mother, or I guess I should say her mother, her mother and I. My grammar is not very good today, sorry. And we're going to make a garden gathering basket. So we've ordered all the supplies for that, and I ordered a few extra things because I'm probably going to make a lot of these as Christmas gifts this year. But we recently made another basket that I want to show you, so let me just reach over here. And okay, now like I said, I take these basket classes with Sasha's mom a lot of times, and we decided to pester her about this basket we had really been wanting to make. But it wouldn't really be suitable for a class because it would take too long. Class usually runs about between 3 to 5 hours depending, and this one took us pretty much all afternoon to make, and we kind of know what we're doing, or at least they do, and I can follow along. But this is it. It's a Cherokee patterned bushel basket. It has a wooden base. And then it has the handles. I've got my knitting, some of my knitting projects that I've completed in it that need to be blocked or put away for the winter. But it's Cherokee style bushel basket. This kit was bought from Jill Choate Basketry. You get all the supplies to make it and the instructions, and she has some beautiful beautiful kits on her page. I actually just ordered another kit for a different style of basket. But this is the Cherokee style bushel basket. Yeah. Now, it looks complicated, and frankly, it really wasn't that hard. You just have to follow the pattern. The only complicated part was really kind of getting started, because if you can see, the spokes go into that base. The base is slotted, and they go into that base. And then you have to do this binding here, and that's the hard part, making sure you get that twisted right so that it locks your spokes into place. But other than that, it really wasn't too bad. It just took a long time. The other thing is, when you make baskets, every basket, as Sasha likes to say, and you learn quickly when you make them, every basket has its own unique personality. And so just because mine is slightly different shape than the one that was in the picture, my walls are more straight up and down. And then Sasha's, even though we had the same materials, we were making it at the same time, hers is more onion shaped, where it bows out at the bottom more. Mine's more straight up and down. and that's fine. You know, every basket has its own personality. It's unique, just like everybody. And that's what I kind of like about making baskets. Okay, so what am I working on right now? Well, lots of different things as usual. I got about 4,000 plates spinning, but I'll show you my Canyon shawl from last week. I've made quite a bit of progress on it because it's what I've been kind of focusing on since I finished my Jodi shawl. So you can see I've made quite a bit of progress. I think it's supposed to be about 12 inches long or so. What I think is cool is because this yarn, even though this yarn is self-striping, I didn't really anticipate it striping up like it is in the cowl, which I think has turned out really great. I think that looks really beautiful that way. The yarn is by String Theory Colorworks. It's their Continuum base, which is an 80 superwash merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon, so it's an 80-10-10. And the colorway is called Ion Propulsion. It's got a light teal, a dark teal, and a brown, and it's dyed so that if you did it in socks, it would be evenly sized stripes. So I've got that. Want to try to get that done by the 15th to make the deadline on her knit along. We'll see. I think I will. I don't think I'll have any trouble getting done with it, but you never know. I thought I was going to go ride horses today, but the Forestry Service had other ideas. So, yeah. Now, another thing, knitting wise, that I'm working on is the True North Toque. Now, this is not a color picture, but what this is a buffalo plaid. It's a red, burgundy, and black buffalo plaid check. So it's color work. It's a good sort of entry-level color work hat. And my friend Sasha wanted it. She said, oh, I love that hat. If I buy the pattern and the yarn, will you, enough to make both of us one, will you make me one? I'm like, of course, I'll be glad to. And then I bought the pom-poms, and I'll show those when I get closer to being done. But it's got a folded double brim, so I'm about halfway. I just started this. I probably worked on it a single day, maybe one evening. It has a folded double brim, so you have to do enough rows that you can fold this, and then you pick up the stitches to do it together, and then you start your color work section. It's only 15 rows, and it's knit in a tube, and then you gather it, and it's done. So I anticipate this being a pretty quick FO. Now the challenge will be, I'll get hers done, and then I have to stay motivated to actually make mine. So, anyway, so, yeah, that is the True North Toque by MbyMKnitwear. She has an Etsy shop, I believe, and also is on Instagram, which is where I saw the picture and sent it to Sasha. And that is in my Constellations bag by Darn Yarn MN. Oh, and my Canyon cowl, I didn't show this. That was in my little Humane Society bag with my little kitty cat on it. So, yeah. Alrighty. Now, another thing that I'm working on, and this is just a little simple printed panel. It's nothing, you know, necessarily to write home about, but I think it's really cute. I have a lot of people that I know in my orbit that are having babies, and I don't like to feed into, you know, usual gender stereotypes about, oh, I'm going to make everything pink for a girl and blue for a boy, because I'm just obnoxious that way. And, you know, that's who I am. That whole liberal snowflake thing, right? But anyway, I've had this in my stash for quite a while, and I know who I'm going to give this to, and I'm not going to say because I'm pretty sure they're going to watch this. It is just a pre-printed panel that's quilted, and then you just put the binding on it. And I got the binding out of my stash, but I didn't have enough, so I went and bought some to finish it up. But it's just a baby quilt. It's got the sun and the moon on it. Can you see that okay? Yeah. It's got the sun and the moon on it with a, I guess that's going to be a rainbow comet, but it's not really a comet because it's a star, and comets are not stars. They're the flotsam left over from the formation of the solar system. Anyway, look that up. It's got Saturn or some ringed planet on it too. So, anyway, but I love this. I think it's adorable. And And I think it'll be a perfect baby gift for the person I have it in mind for. So I'll get that sewn up quickly and get that to them. Then another thing that I'm making for these friends of mine who are having babies. I guess Lovey is the new word for security blanket. I don't know. It makes you feel better, makes you feel cozy. I wouldn't mind having one. Maybe I need to make an adult size one of these. It's the Dragon Lovey. Okay, the Dragon Lovey. And it's by Unlikely Handmade, which is Unlikely Nest on Etsy. So you can see down there. Okay, Unlikely Handmade. And again, I don't like general, usual baby stuff. So I'm gonna make dragons. And so you can see there's 3 options. There's the regular dragon, there's the Stegosaurus, and then there's the winged dragon. So I'm making the winged dragon. And mine are going to be plaid. Because why not? Okay. So I've cut out, I think, about 3 of these. 3 dragon bodies. And then I've got their bellies are contrast fabric, and then their wings are contrast. So for one of them, they'll have these yellow and blue striped, or yellow and green striped wings. They're still taped to the pattern piece. And then one of them will have this green stripe wing. And then I'm going to do their scales in green felt. You have an option to put eyes on it, but I don't really see any. I mean, I've got safety eyes, but I don't really see any advantage to putting an eye on it. So yeah, I think those will be pretty quick to sew up. You just sew the 2 sides of the back, and then you put these little contrast belly on there, and you put the wings on. There's a mark. I've marked where the wings go. So I'm going to sew those up, I think, maybe tonight, and get those done. And that's pretty much it for things that I'll show that I'm working on. I've got some other things that oh no, let me show you my solar system. The solar system blanket is done. The blanket part is done. Now the planets are not done. She just sent us the chart this week for the Earth, but the blanket itself is completely done. So let me show you that, what it finally worked out like. So here it is. I have washed it, so it doesn't smell like dog anymore. Now it smells like dog that's rolled in air freshener. So the final size of it, if I let it touch the floor, and I didn't block this out really, but the final size of it, if it's touching the floor, is almost up to my eyes. So it's over 5 feet. The other thing that I want to do is there is a corona on the sun, and I thought I might try to pin that down, but I think what I'm going to end up doing is tacking that down so that it shows the rays of the sun a little bit better. Because I went to all the trouble to make that, so I might as well show it off, right? Now, the next thing is we've got she did send us the pattern for planets. Now, these still have their strings on them because I've got to sew them on. But there's Mercury. Okay, Mercury's just a little round red. And then I had some variegated yarn that I used for Venus, because to me, pictures of Venus look like where it's got sort of gray, green, stripey. So I've got Venus. And then she sent us the pattern for Mars. But because I'm extra, I'm making chain stitches, and I'm going to give Mars ice caps. Because why not? So I'm going to give Mars some ice caps there. I've got to sew those down too. I'll probably sew Mars down and then sew these down on top of it. She did send the chart for the Earth. I haven't done the Earth yet. I finished crocheting the blanket Tuesday, I guess. And I'll do the Earth. Maybe I'll do it this afternoon sometime. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about acquisitions. Now, let me preface this to say acquisitions with me are going to be kind of feast or famine, because I do most of my craft supply buying early in the year, because when summer and fall get here, I'm buying hay. And so I set aside part of my income tax return to buy what I call my mad money, I guess. And so I'm kind of spreading out my acquisitions over several episodes. But I feel very decadent because I have bought quite a few things, but a lot of it is for Christmas gifts and birthday gifts, and pretty much will do me all year. So it's going to be hard because, you know, looking at all these beautiful things on Instagram and on Etsy is, you really got to exercise some restraint, I guess. And I try really hard, but sometimes I don't do so good. But anyway, so the first thing that I will show you, and this I didn't actually pay for it. When I went to the conference, to the Agate conference on Thursday of last week, where we were presenting about our award that we had won for the Gifted and Talented project, they have a vendor area, and different state agencies will come with their educational outreach, and then vendors who have books or games or whatever will be there. But one thing that they had was a movie about Sgt Stubby, and he is a famous dog that was, I believe, in the Marine Corps, and they were giving away these little bags. I got to meet Sgt Stubby and take my picture with him. He was very sweet. And, well, not the dog who played him in the movie, is obviously. But anyway, I had to have one of these because I'm a kid at heart. And this makes a great project bag because it's drawstring and it's a really big, nice size. So I'm going to save this and keep it precious for a project bag. Because, you know, I'm a sucker for dogs anyway. So, anyway, yeah. So, okay, so, some fiber that are yarn that I had gotten on Happee Knits podcast. Yolanda was talking about a dyer in Texas called Chicken Coop Dyeworks, and she names a lot of her colorways and bases after farm things, and of course, you know, reel me in, and that's right up my alley. So I was very excited to peruse her shop on Etsy and then make an order from her. I am wanting to knit the Atomic Powered Hat by Argent Gal Designs, Teresa Silver, who kindly gifted me that pattern as being one of her Instagram followers. And I was looking for a colorway to knit that out of. It's the way it's knit is it has what looks like the old atomic symbols, or the atom on it. And I really wanted to knit that up, and so I was looking for a colorway, and I didn't want it to be something that was too fussy because I was afraid it wouldn't show the pattern. So I was looking for something specifically for that, and I found this. Okay, this is Chicken Coop Dyeworks, and it's her hen base, and it's 100% BFL, Blueface Leicester, BFL yarn. Okay, and it's called, the colorway is Dungarees. And so it's kind of that beautiful blue of what I would think of as that work shirt blue, or, you know, my dad or my grandpa used to wear the denim work shirts. It's kind of that beautiful blue color. Looks more purple there on the screen. It's not quite that purple, but it's kind of that blue jean blue color. And this is a DK weight, and it's 246 yards and 100 grams. So, there you can kind of see better back here in the natural sunlight what it looks like. But, you know, as long as I was going to order something, I might as well order more than one thing, right, to save on shipping, or get the best out of my shipping. So I went to look at her sock yarn. Not that I'm going to make this into socks necessarily, but I may. She has a base called Twinkle Toes, which is 75 superwash merino, 20 nylon, and 5% stellina. And it's called Twinkle Toes, and this is her Wonder Woman colorway. Why, heck yeah, of course I had to have Wonder Woman. It's kind of an inside joke with my very good friend, who is also my horse vet, Dr. Jordan. She is a big fan of Wonder Woman, and we both kind of call ourselves the Wonder Women because we are both single women who kind of take care of business, you know, and she loves Wonder Woman things. Well, what she doesn't know is I'm knitting her a Wonder Woman hat. I bought the pattern. I didn't get it done in time for Christmas, but it's on my pile of next things up. She's coming in May to give my little mini horse Hershey the snip snip, because right now he's all boy and we don't need that. Sorry guys, but around here you don't get to keep them. Maybe that's why I'm single. I don't know, but we don't have any intact stallions or horses. The bull got to keep his because he needs them, but nobody else needs theirs around here. So we're gonna geld my mini horse. He will be a year old then, and it'll be a good time. More about that as time approaches. But Wonder Woman makes me think of her and of me, so I had to have this. Don't really know what I'm going to do with this. I suspect this will end up being a shawl or a cowl because, well, I just think it's pretty and I want to see it. Then, kind of as a preemptive idea for July, I ordered another Twinkle Toes. This is called Fireworks. So for the Independence Day, you know, fireworks. So very beautiful. Again, this is the 75 merino, 20% nylon, 5% stellina. You can see it there. It's got a bunch of beautiful different. It's got red, white, and blue, but there's also some greens and yellows in there. Various shades of blue, and then a little every now and then there's a little bit of purple in there too. So I thought that would make cool July socks, maybe. July's my birthday too, so you know that'll be cool. And she was very sweet. She wrote a very sweet note in my order and sent me a really nice smelling lavender sachet. And then she also sent me a little mini as a gift. This one is 75-25, I believe. Yeah, 75-25 to do some contrast heels and toes and cuffs maybe. And I could even actually use it with this because that purple that's every now and then in this kind of matches that. So we'll see. I don't know if that's what I'm going to use it for. But I was very touched. Anytime anybody does anything nice for me, I'm really touched because I never expect people to be nice. Well, that's not true. I never expect people to go out of their way to do things for me, but I always am very grateful when they do. So, yeah. Now, okay, so we went to this auction I told you about on the last one. That did not go well. Well, that's not true. I did get a couple of things, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. But we were in the direction of the town that I actually work in, and I knew that the knitting shop there, which is called the Twisted Pearl, was going to be hosting a trunk show by Leon Alexander Yarns. And I had bought some of his yarn that I had made my She Rises hat out of. And I really wanted to go because he was bringing some shop exclusive colorways. And one of them was named after the shop dog. And you got dogs. I mean, dogs, like I'm wearing my Mr. Mo Project shirt. If you're not familiar with that, it's a group out of New York that rescues specifically senior dogs. And I try to buy their fundraiser shirts or whenever I can. But anyway, there was a colorway named after Loki, the shop dog. So I'm like, oh, I got to have that. Well, then when I got there, I had already heard about on the Grocery Girls podcast, the Stephen West Bonyard shawl. And I had looked at it and I thought, oh, that looks pretty cool. So I kind of had that in the back of my mind too. And so when I got there, I saw the Loki and knew I wanted that immediately. But then I also saw one of their other shop exclusive colorways called Party on Prince Street, and that's because the shop is on Prince Street in Conway. And this is just right up my alley. Blues and blues and blues and more blues and more blues and more blues. You know, I have blue eyes, so I like to wear blue because I think it makes my eyes stand out. So I bought enough of this to make the Boneyard shawl. I was kind of thinking I was going to do a virus shawl out of this, but I'm kind of now waffling on that. I bought 2 skeins of this, so I've got be 860 yards, so that's plenty to do pretty much anything with. I don't know if I want to do a virus shawl. I don't know yet. If you guys have got any ideas for a neat fingering weight shawl pattern that is not too fussy, I can do some lace, but then again, not a lot. Yeah, so if you've got some ideas, let me know, because I bought 2 and I want to do something with it, but I don't know yet. But anyway, that's Leon Alexander Yarns. They're out of Oklahoma. He was very sweet, very gracious to talk with me while I was there. So go check him out. He's got some beautiful colors. He's also doing a series of colors this year, I believe, or right this season, inspired by the colors of Indian saris, and they were beautiful. But I had my heart set on these 2, so I did exhibit some uncharacteristic restraint for myself. Maybe I can get those other ones later. Now I had a pretty rough day yesterday, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, maybe I should have a filter, but I was not, that option was not checked on me when I was born, I guess. I had taken the day off. I wasn't feeling particularly great. Wasn't sick, but I was just tired. And I didn't have a planetarium show yesterday. I usually volunteer doing planetarium shows on Wednesday for public school groups. So you can't really not be there when you're doing that. But I didn't have one yesterday, and I knew that my classes were in a place where if I missed a day just to kind of regroup, that it wouldn't be a big deal. And so I decided to take yesterday just to take care of some things here at the farm and do a little self-care, I guess. So I went to the feed store, and a couple of different things happened while I was at the feed store that caused me to leave there, not when I had anticipated leaving. And normally I get on the interstate, but today I decided to drive through town and go down the highway. And I saw a cop pulled over. Police officer was pulled over with his lights on. And, you know, you always look to see, you know, just to see who's got pulled over. Because it's a small town, you might know who it is. But there was a little dog laying there. And she'd obviously been hit by a car. Someone had called in the dog that had been hit, and she had drug herself off to the side of the road. She was wagging her little tail. I stopped, and he asked me if it was my dog, and I was like, no, but can I be of help? And it turns out that the vet that I use for my dogs and cats was just up the road, so we took her there. She wasn't gonna make it. Her injuries were too severe. I had left my details with the girls that work there because they know me, and I said, look, I know the city. I mean, she wasn't going to be able to be saved. She was internally injured, and it was, I don't know why I'm telling this, but anyway. So they called me as I was almost back home, and they said, yeah, we're going to have to let her go. And so I gave them my information because I had said I would pay for it. Just because I didn't want her to die on the side of the road. Anyway, you didn't need to know all that. So what that means is I went to the store to get yarn to make some socks, and I ended up wandering into the fabric department because the girl on the Yarngasm podcast had been talking about McCall's patterns being on sale. So I had gotten on the website and looked at a bunch of patterns. Now, I used to sew a lot. I used to make all my own clothes. I used to sew for some musicians, and they could bring me drawings of what they wanted, and we could pretty well make it happen. I'm a bigger girl. I'm tall. I'm, big up top. I'm broad-shouldered, but I'm very short-waisted, and I have no hips. And so I had to learn to fit myself. And so I used to make everything. And I haven't sewn for myself probably since I've been home, really. Because while Mom and Dad were alive, I couldn't really have all that stuff out because it was in the way. And I don't like to have to drag stuff out and put it back up and drag stuff out and put it back up. So after they passed away, I decided to use one of the rooms as a craft room, and but I've just not gotten back into sewing for myself. So I was watching her podcast, and she was talking about McCall's patterns, and she was talking about some of the clothes she was making, and it kind of got me excited about sewing for myself again. So I got on the McCall's website, and I looked at their patterns, and I made notes because I had noticed that the local Big Brock's craft store had them on sale for $1 cheaper than they were on the website. So I thought, I want to go buy some patterns. Well, because of the little dog, some patterns turned into 10 patterns and a big bag of fabric that was bright and cheerful and springy and happy. And some of it's going to be for clothes, and some of it's going to be for project bags for myself, because I want some big project bags, and I can make those. So that's what I did. What is that? There's a bird out there talking. I don't know what he's saying, but he's telling it. He's testifying about something. But anyway, so I bought this pattern. I like the fit of this dress. It looks like something that would be very comfortable and cute to wear in the summer with some leggings, or the longer top with like jeans or something. Plus, I'm thinking about all these knitwear things that I want to make for myself. Frankly, I've kind of let my dressing turn pretty casual. I wear a lot of hoodies. And so I'm thinking, I need to make myself some clothes again. So I picked up this pattern. It was one of the ones I picked up. And I got 10, but this is the one that I'm going to start with. And then I also picked up an apron pattern because I like aprons. I have a nice collection of aprons. And I like this one because it's got a little tulle petticoat under it. And I thought that was just stinking cute. I have a whole bunch of aprons. How many times do I wear them and I don't get stuff on myself? 0. But I have them. And I do an apron swap usually in the spring on my farm. And that's usually a lot of fun. But anyway, so I got these. I got some other ones too. But these are the ones I'm going to start with. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of my acquisitions, crafty acquisitions anyway. So, yeah, we'll come back and talk about the farm a little bit. Okay, so the auction, like I said, did not go to plan, and I kind of knew it wasn't going to. There were some dealers there, and I knew that I didn't have enough deep pockets to outbid them. But you know what? It all worked out. What I was going for was to buy a pie safe. I have a lot of dishes. I have several dessert plate sets, and I have a set of china that I got at a thrift store. I have my mom's china. And I also bought, on Thursday, when we came back from the conference, we stopped at a flea market, and I bought a German tea set with the teapot and 6 teacups and saucers. It was really pretty, and it was marked way down because the person was closing their booth. I have 2 tea sets now. I don't have teas. I guess I need to start, but anyway. So I was wanting this pie safe to store my dishes in. Well, that didn't work out. I got overbid pretty badly. I also got overbid on, I wanted some cotton carders. There was a set of cotton carders. But I had just seen a set at that same flea market, and I knew how much they were there. And they sold at the auction for almost triple what they were at the flea market. So I'm thinking, no. Well, then I saw some butter molds. I wanted a butter mold. Why? Because, you know, every farmhouse needs a butter mold. But that didn't work out either, because they sold, I think, again, there were 2 dealers that got into a bidding war over the ones that were there. And I just was like, no, I can't do this. But there were some things that sold fairly cheaply. And my friend, Mrs. Hayes, that was with me, actually got the bid on choice on this table of like serving pieces. And she got all these really nice silver serving pieces. But then people were like, I don't really like anything else that's on the table, because they were mad because they wanted that stuff. So I was the next person to get it. And I think it was $5. And I got this. Now, this is not particularly old. It's from 1998. It's stamped on the back. It's an Arthur Court pewter tray with the bunny rabbits and the basket weave design. I just liked it. I thought it was very springtimey. I love bunny rabbits. I've got bunnies. So it's a nice big tray. It's in really good shape. And if you want to believe the price it's selling for on eBay, my $5 investment is worth about $95 now, so I'll take that. Of course, you got to find the person that's willing to pay that. But for $5, you bet I'll have that. I just thought it was really neat. Then, we left the auction. We went to the yarn store, as I already mentioned, and then we came back through town on the way home, and I said, there's a little flea market that had opened up. I've been in it a couple of times, and it doesn't have a lot of good stuff, but every now and then you can find some little gems if you know what you're looking for. Well, I was walking by this table, and I saw a butter mold. And it is the wheat pattern. Oh, it's upside down. The wheat pattern, you can see there. And it is old. You can see where it's been kind of worn from use. Okay, and that's the seam. It's kind of cracked there, but who cares? I'm not going to use it for butter probably anyway. But I got this for 1/3 of what the people at the auction were paying for. And this particular pattern, again, if you believe the people on eBay, I did pretty good because it's worth way more than what I paid for it, according to the people on eBay, even with the crack. So now my farmhouse has a butter mold. Yay, me. And it all worked out because I went to work and I was sitting and chatting with a friend of mine at work who does woodworking, and I was telling him about the pie safe. And he said, well, don't you have an old barn or an old house on your property? And I have both. I have a barn that fell down a long time ago, and then the old house that's on this property, I'm in the process of dismantling, but it's kind of falling apart. There's some old wood in there, and I know that that house is at least 110. The main part of it is at least 110 years old. And I've got some of the wood from it. And he said, I can make you a pie safe. And I'm like, oh, really? So, see, it's all going to work out, because now I'm going to have a pie safe that's got my bloodline and history in it, and not just some person's pie safe. The auction was interesting. There was a lady there who'd lost her house in a fire, and she was trying to replace some of her things. So I never bid against her. I was like, no, if she wants that, I'm going to let her have it. The same guy outbid me on all that other stuff, so I gave him the stink eye on the way out, you know. But anyway, it was interesting, too, to watch people, because the way the parking was set up, people would foolishly drive all the way down this long line of cars to realize there was nowhere to park, and they would have to back up. A lot of them were pulling trailers. My dad made sure when I learned to pull a trailer that I learned to back it up. He said, you don't have any business pulling a trailer anywhere unless you can back up a trailer. So he made me go out in the pasture and practice and practice and practice and practice and practice. And I'm not going to brag too much, but I can back a trailer pretty well anywhere that it needs to go. People get in a hurry, they overdrive, they overcorrect, or they cut corners when they pull trailers, because they're sloppy. So anyway, if you're going to pull a trailer, you need to learn to back it up, because you're not guaranteed that you're not going to get into a place where you're not going to have to back it at some point. So anyway, just my public service announcement for you. Okay, so Willie's joined me right now for kind of the critter update. Everybody's doing pretty good. The grass is starting to come on. I got into my beehives, and you may have seen my post on Instagram earlier, if you follow me on there. I got into my beehives, and I had thought all 4 of my hives had made it through the winter because I had seen activity outside of all of them, but it turns out that I guess last week, one of them finally, I guess, just had enough of the hive beetles and absconded. I know it happened fairly recently because all the honey was still in there. There were a few dead bees in there, but not nearly the whole colony. Hi, baby. And I had thought that I had refreshed all my hive beetle traps earlier this winter, but I guess I was mistaken. It was my oldest hive. I was kind of disappointed to find out that they were gone. But I have ordered 2 nukes that'll be coming in the end of April or first part of May. So that'll get me back up to 5. And, you know, but ultimately I would like to get to 10 or 12 or whatever. But farm life, you know, you have losses, as I heard on the podcast the other day. And that's really true. That's just part of it. Willie wanted to come in here with me because he's a little concerned about the smoke still. So he wanted to come in here and hang out. But the animals all seem to be doing really well. Like I said earlier, we've got Hershey scheduled for his operation for his gelding, and then I started making plans for having everybody's shots and everything done later in the summertime. I usually try to do that in summer when I'm off work. I have lost some ducks. Something was getting into my pen, and it was something large enough that it was able to take an adult full-grown duck out of the pen completely. So I tried some different security things, and none of them seemed to be making a dent. So finally I've just started putting them up at night. They like to be out at night, but it's just not working out. So I started putting them up, and that seems to have helped. I'm trying to get ready for some baby chicks. I want to get about 10 or so more to add to my laying flock. I like to sell eggs. I have some coworkers that like to buy eggs from me, so I like to replenish my laying flock every year. The cattle seem to be doing okay. They came in today. They were a little concerned about the smoke also. I was putting some feed out for them, and they were acting a little unusual in that they weren't going right to the feed. They were just kind of milling around looking at me, seeing what I was going to do. Haven't had any more babies. I'm still sitting at 5. My friend that took my old bull last year, the one who I get my hay from, he sent me a picture yesterday that he had his first baby with my old bull, so that was exciting to see a new little baby being born. So that's kind of where we're at here with the animals. Horses are doing really good. I rode Gusty yesterday. Seems like forever since I've had a chance to ride horses. But finally had some good weather. And yesterday was the adult ride at the barn. So we got together and about 4 of us rode, and it was really good. My red mare Flame that my young friend Eleanor rides, she seems to be having some shoulder soreness. So I actually called and made a horse chiropractor appointment for both her and Gusty for my spring break, which is coming up at the university. So I'm going to take them in and get them adjusted and kind of get them ready for the big summer work season ahead. My goal, I had lunch with my dressage coach and friend last Friday, and we were kind of talking about what I want to do as far as showing goes and kind of have a little bit of a plan in action now. But anyway, so everybody's doing pretty good. And I had a nice surprise. I had a nice surprise this morning. My friend who has helped my family a lot of years, and I deer hunt with them. They showed up just kind of out of the blue, and it was kind of a shame. I was a little bit embarrassed because I was in my house cleaning clothes, which is all mismatched. I think even the flip-flops I had on didn't match, and I guess he knew I was kind of having a bummer day yesterday. I told you a little bit about that earlier. And he had found me a new heater for my deer stand. So my heater last year didn't work, and that made for some pretty miserable days out there hunting. And I guess he wanted to cheer me up, so he was very kind enough to bring me a new heater for my deer stand. He and my friend that I buy hay from, they've been in my around my family for a lot of years, and their family and my family have known each other for a long time, and so we're like family. They were both pallbearers at both my parents' funerals, and they've always been there for me when I've had trouble with equipment or needed some help, and I've tried to help them whenever I could. So that was kind of a nice surprise. But anyway, so Willie is wanting some company here, so he wanted to come in and say hello. I'm going to put in a little video clip of Ellie Mae, my hound dog. She is in typical hound dog fashion complaining about something, and I wanted you to see firsthand what she does. So enjoy the clip. Ellie, you can get on the bed. What do you want? Get on the bed. Come on. I know. What? Well, come on. Get up here. Come on. But anyway, so, yeah, farm is going pretty good. We had some significant wind here the other day, and it did a little bit of damage to my chicken coop roof that I've had to repair. But grass is starting to come out, thank goodness. The days are starting to get longer, and Sunday is the time change, and I think that should be a freaking national holiday. I'm sorry. I know some of y'all hate summer. I can tolerate winter, but it's the dark I can't deal with. Coming home in the dark, going to work in the dark, I don't have any time to get anything done outside through the week, and that just wears me out. I hate to say that, but I'll take summer. I'm a summer baby. I'll take 110 working in the hayfield any day over 20 and it's snowing. That's just me. I I do like the snow. I do like all the seasons, but I'm just really glad when the time changes. So when I get home at night, there's still daylight and I can work outside. Yeah, so other interesting things that have happened. I got up, I couldn't sleep this morning, so I got up and I decided that I would make a batch of yogurt. So I've got a batch of yogurt going in the kitchen in my yogurt maker, and I refreshed my kombucha and put some kombucha into bottles with some raspberries in it. My sourdough starter is just about ready to start using again. I had let my sourdough starter kind of go dormant, and I woke it back up. I've been starting to buy supplies for canning season, and I've been buying seeds. Was going to work on the room where my seed starting stuff is going to go, and I have failed miserably at that today, but you know, I've still got time. But I have bought some seeds, just a few of the things that I have gotten. I love sunflowers, so I picked up these. Now, I've got some seeds from a sunflower that I grew last year that was huge, but I like to get different kinds to kind of supplement with that. And then I like greens, so I got a couple of different kinds of greens. I do a lot of stir fry and ramen type bowl things, and so I thought this would be good for that. And then just for salads, a little bit of arugula is always good stuff. And then I love zinnias, or as my grandma used to call them, zinnias. They're easy, super duper easy to grow. If you've never grown flowers before in your life, I promise you can grow zinnias. They're annuals, but they will self-sow if you let them go to seed, and they come in a bajillion different colors and a bajillion different heights. I've grown everything from the little tiny fairy ones to the huge ones, but I love them. Butterflies like them, so I picked these up. I thought I liked the bright yellow of the seeds, so I thought those were really pretty. So I'm going to get started on that. Got to get my seeds starting. We've got to get that room ready too, because I really want to buy some chicks and get those going. I've got a friend that wants me to raise a couple of chicks for her too, so I told her I would do that. Yeah, I guess the last thing that I did, and I don't know, maybe I'm a sucker, maybe I'm not. Do any of y'all use this, Norwex? I've got a friend that was doing a Norwex party, and I mean, supposed to be the way, the truth, and the light when it comes to cleaning. If it can keep this house clean, it is. I'm promising you. It sounds good. The idea of not using a lot of heavy-duty cleaners around my animals appeals to me. So I thought, well, I'll give it a try. It wasn't the cheapest thing in the world to do, but it's got a money-back guarantee on it. So I bought the basic cloth. I bought the floor mop system, because that's really where I struggle, is keep the floor mopped and swept. I do that I sweep every day. But I did try the dry sweeper mop thing out this morning, and it does work pretty well, because a broom, you know, a lot of the fine dust, and I say it's the dogs, but it's really not just the dogs. When you live out in country, there's just dust. There's just dust everywhere. It's just part of country living. And the broom that I have, or the brooms that I have, they leave some of it behind. And then, yeah, I know there's a Swiffer, but those are disposable, and that goes against my grain. I don't like spending money that I'm just kind of throwing away like that. Plus, it doesn't seem very ecologically sound. So the mop system is reusable. You wash it and then you reuse it. And then I also bought the upholstery cleaner stuff and the mattress spray. So we'll see. I don't know. I'll report back on how it works. But I'll try it. A friend of mine was selling it. I thought I'd give her a hand helping out, and we'll see how it works. It's like one of my friends said, though, it doesn't come with somebody to use it. And I think that's really what I wish I had was, hey, go do this, because I'd rather play and sew and ride horses and make things. So, but maybe this will cut down on some waste anyway, on paper towels and things like that. So we'll see. I don't know. Maybe so. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for farm stuff. Now, what I was going to show you today how to make was a heat pack for your sore muscles. I love these things. I give them as gifts, and I use them a lot because I do a lot of heavy duty farm work and makes me tired. And so here's mine. Okay, now I'm not going to take the tube out, but inside here is just a cotton fabric tube full of corn, deer corn, dried feed corn. Okay, you can get it a 50-pound bag of it for about $7 to $8. You don't need 50 pounds. I think there's about, in this tube, I think there's about 5 cups of corn. And then I make a fleece sleeve to put it in. I'll show you on this one. It's just a fleece sleeve, and then what I do is I kind of make it like a pillow back where you just open it up and you stick your sleeve inside there. So it's the two ends. Stick it inside there. Now don't fill your sleeve all the way up, because if you do, it won't be flexible enough to go in your little cover if you want to make a cover. I make the cover so that I can keep this on there and wash it and not have to worry about the sleeve. So you fill it with dried corn, and then what you do is I put mine in the microwave. If it's the first time you've ever done it, I would suggest putting it in your microwave for about a minute and a half and then feel it. And if it's not warm enough, run it another minute and another minute and another minute until it gets as warm as you want it. Now, if you leave it in there too long, it's going to smell like burnt popcorn. I'm just telling you. And over time, the corn does eventually lose all of its moisture, but it'll work. I've had this one for about 2.5 years, and it still works just fine. So, you can probably buy bags of dried corn. Now, don't go get popcorn or you'll regret that immediately, because you don't want it popping. You want it just to get hot. So that's why you need the dried field corn, or what they call deer corn. You don't need a 50-pound bag. You might be able to find smaller bags of it in the bird feed section. But I buy a 50-pound sack because I make these for gifts, and then whatever's left over, I just feed to my birds, feed to my geese or my chickens. I like having a little flexibility too, because then it can conform to the shape of your body. I know my microwave well enough to know that I can run this for 3 minutes, kind of get it out and move it around and put it back in there for about another 3 minutes. This will still be warm. It won't be hot, but it will be warm 2 or 3 hours after I have run it. It's like almost like a hot water bottle for your bed. But I like having it where you can kind of, put it on a sore shoulder or put it around your neck or whatever. Super easy to make, and a great gift. I made my friend Marla one, and she loves hers. So, but anyway, so yeah, so a little simple thing there for you. I encourage you to try that out. And yeah, so there's your little handy tip for today. Okay, I'll just kind of wrap up with some things that I'm going to be working on coming up. I am hoping to cast on either tonight, or it's probably tonight, but maybe tomorrow. I'm going to learn to do cuff down socks in a proper heel flap and gusset, just to say that I have learned it. And so I was listening to the Little Bobbins podcast, and Danny was talking about the Cyril socks. So I bought her pattern for the Cyril socks, and I'm going to make those because they also have enough cabling in them to qualify for the Grocery Girls March cabling challenge. So I'm going to make those, and I think that I'm just going to make those in some simple patterns, Croy. It's kind of the same oatmeal color that these are in. That's what I went to the store to buy and ended up walking out of there with a bag of fabric. But anyway, so I'm going to make those. I'm going to cast those on tonight, I hope. And then the Knitting Expat Sock Club, the Wanderlust Sock Club, the next pattern for it came out. Now, the mathematician in me wants to call these the derived socks, but I think it's derive socks. She said it the other day on her podcast, but there's a little bit of an eyelet texture in there, and I've got some, also some Peyton's Croy that's a little more patterned, but it's not the patterning, it's just it's a rosewood color. I think that's what I'm going to use for those. So I want to try to get these started, maybe by this weekend, and try to get those going. Now, I'm going to try to cut out those, or I'm going to finish my little dragons, but I want to try to make up a project bag. I joined a mailing list online, where if you join the mailing list, you got a pattern for the bag. So another thing that I want to try to make is I am going to start the Tracie shawl, which is the companion shawl, or I guess not really the companion, but it's a Joji Locatelli pattern. So I'm going to try to start that. If you remember last week, I had the snow leopard yarn. I'm going to use that, and then I bought a complimentary yarn that I'll show next time. I went into the knitting shop in town yesterday and bought some yarn to go for that. So that's kind of what I want to work on in the short term. I also bought myself another basket kit. It's called the Knitwit. It's a knitting basket, and it's really pretty. I don't have a picture of it to show you, but I bought it. It's from Choate Basketry. I went ahead and bought another kit from her, and she was very gracious. She sent me a very nice email thanking me for being a repeat customer. You should, if you like to make baskets, you should get on her mailing list, because she does put her kits on sale at a pretty significant discount throughout the year from time to time. And that's when we bought the bushel basket kit was on a significant discount. So I encourage you to check her out also. And yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. I've got my pile that I'm starting to dig into. I've got a little quilted wall hanging that's been on my mind for quite a while that I think I want to try to drag out of there and go ahead and finish off. And then I've got another little, and I'm kind of embarrassed of this, but I'm going to rework it. This was a leftover block from a small quilt that I had done. And I put this binding on it, and I did a terrible job because I was in a hurry. So I'm going to take this binding off, and I think I'm going to make this into a pillow. This is a pattern from a book that was published probably about 15 years ago called Strips That Sizzle. And it's made in strip piecing. And so I'm going to take this binding off and get rid of it. And I think I'm going to turn this into a pillow. I think it'll make a nice size little throw pillow. And then I just did some simple machine quilting on it. So I'm going to take that off and rework that a little bit, because I don't like how that looks, and it's a shame to waste it, right? So I'm not going to do that. So that's pretty much it for me. I hadn't really planned on podcasting this quickly. I don't know that I'll do it every week, but like I said, I was unexpectedly having to stay around home today because of everything that was going on. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you enjoyed the last episode and this episode too. Remember, you can find me on Facebook and as Buckthorn Farms is my farm page, and I'm on Instagram and in Ravelry as Doc Firewoman. I'll put that in the description below. I hope you're enjoying this. And if you are, let other people know. Maybe this will go somewhere. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll just be my friends watching their crazy friend yammer. I don't know. But anyway, I appreciate everybody that's giving me positive feedback. And y'all do good and be good. Take care of each other. And we'll see you in a couple weeks. Peace out.